Before the old market was filled with businesses and street musicians, 100 years ago, these shops were fronts for much shadier operations. Gambling, prostitution, bootleg liquor was sold behind many storefronts, and that business was run by underworld criminals.
He told me, he said, once upon a time there was a murder of your dad's business partner.
Power, infidelity, and money could be some of the reasons why Clarence Hanfelt was killed on his front porch in 1934.
And he says, but I'm not saying your dad had anything to do with the murder, but.
John Atkins Jr. says his father and Hanfelt were in business. They were selling Al Capone's bootleg liquor in and around Omaha until the night Hanfelt was killed.
Dad and the deceased had an argument at 11:15 that night in their office of over $1,165 short in the cash box.
So who pulled the trigger? Atkins himself, a jealous ex, or someone else?
Emotional killings really didn't exist.
In the early 1900s, Omaha was a hot spot for illegal gambling and drinking, and it was run by Tom Dennison.
There was a lot of dealing with control. People that got killed were really the ones that were part of the independent group.
No crime happened in the city without Dennison knowing it. His path to power was littered with unsolved murders and the 1919 race riot.
Corruption naturally reached top of police officials, and it also reached prosecutors and judges.
It wasn't until 1932 when Dennison and his associates were arrested. No one was found guilty, but Dennison fell from power.
There has to be also a level of corruption within city government.
During this time, John's father's business was getting more successful. The beer made its way here from Canada to Detroit, to Chicago, to Omaha, and Atkins and Hanfelt had an idea to skip all the middlemen.
Clarence and Dad were going to buy an airplane and bypass the source of liquor and beer in Chicago.
Neighbors tell me when Hanfelt lived here, people used to drive up and down the street, spraying this house with machine guns, and you could still see some of the bullet holes they left. According to police investigations at the time, Hanfelt was walking up these stairs when he was shot and killed by someone hiding in the bushes. His body laid here for hours because one of his girlfriends living here at the time pulled into this garage and walked into the house through this secret tunnel, which meant there was plenty of time for the murderer to get away.
And the only thing that they found were 2 spent shotgun shells.
After burying Hanfelt, Atkins' father took over the business, becoming wildly successful even after Prohibition ended.
Dad sold more Ham's beer than Storrs Brewery, Falstaff Brewery, and Metz Brewery, all 3 local breweries combined.
Atkins eventually got out of the beer business, but the murder of his business partner is still unsolved.
Chicago just preferred to do business with Dad rather than Clarence.
Changing attitudes after World War II ran a lot of the underworld crime out of town. Big bookmakers took their business to Las Vegas. The historic speakeasies and clubs are long gone, but if you know where to look, there are still hints of Omaha's underworld around today. Maureen Wirtz, Fox 42 News.